Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Expensive Coins History channel. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is not just about an ordinary coin. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, it might completely change the way you look at the money in your pocket, and maybe even change your life. Because right now, somewhere in drawers, old boxes, piggy banks, and forgotten wallets across the world, there are coins that most people ignore, coins that people spend without thinking. Coins that people believe are worth only a few pennies. But in reality, some of these coins have become silent treasures. And today, we begin with one of the most talked about modern UK coins in the collector world, the 1993 2p coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II. And now, before you dismiss this as just another coin, I want you to slow down for a moment and really listen. Because what makes this coin so interesting is not just its design, not just its circulation, but the story that surrounds it in the collector market, where rarity, demand, and condition can turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. This is exactly why collectors spend years studying coins like this, because sometimes the smallest details create the biggest value shifts. And today, I'm going to walk you through everything step by step, in a way that even if you are completely new to coin collecting, you will still understand exactly why people are talking about this coin. And remember, my channel is Expensive Coins History channel, and if you are someone who enjoys discovering hidden value in everyday objects, then you are in the right place. So let's begin. The 1993 UK 2p coin is part of a long-running series under Queen Elizabeth II's reign. At first glance, it looks extremely ordinary. It has the same bronze appearance, the same size, and the same design style that millions of people in the UK have seen for decades. On the obverse side, you see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, a symbol of one of the longest reigning monarchs in modern history. Her image on coins has changed over time, reflecting different stages of her reign, each portrait capturing a slightly different era. On the reverse side, you see the familiar 2p inscription along with the crowned portcullis design, a symbol deeply connected to British heritage and tradition. Now here is where most people stop paying attention, because to the untrained eye, all 2p coins look identical. But collectors, real collectors, do not look at coins the same way. They look at minting details. They look at production variations. They look at low mintage years. They look at errors. And most importantly, they look at demand patterns across global collectors. And when all of these factors align, even a common coin can suddenly become something far more significant in the marketplace. Now, let's talk about why the 1993 coin stands out in discussions among collectors. The early 1990s were a transitional period in UK coin production. The Royal Mint was producing massive quantities of circulation coins, but not all years had the same output. Some years were struck in higher numbers, while others were relatively lower depending on demand and circulation needs. And this is where collector interest begins to form, because when a coin enters circulation in huge numbers, most examples remain common. But if certain variations exist, or if high-grade preserved specimens are found, their value can change dramatically. Now I want you to imagine something very simple. Think about a coin that has passed through thousands of hands, maybe dropped on the ground, maybe kept in pockets, maybe exposed to weather, time, and wear. Now compare that to a coin that has been perfectly preserved since the day it was minted, untouched, clean, sharp details, original shine still visible. Even though they are the same year, they are not the same in value. Condition alone can completely change a coin's desirability. And this is one of the key reasons why collectors always examine coins like the 1993 2p carefully. Because depending on condition, rarity factors, and collector demand, some listings and reports in the collector market have suggested extremely high valuations for exceptional examples. In fact, and this is where things become truly interesting. Certain rare condition or highly sought-after versions of the 1993 UK Queen Elizabeth II 2p coin have been associated in collector discussions and speculative markets with values as high as $69,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $69,000 for a 2p coin. Now, before you think this is impossible, let me explain something very important. Coin value is not just about face value. It is about rarity, collector demand, grading condition, and sometimes even market hype or auction competition. When collectors compete for a rare specimen in perfect condition, prices can rise dramatically beyond expectations. This is why coin collecting is often called the silent investment world, because most people outside the hobby have no idea what is happening inside it. Now imagine holding a small bronze coin in your hand, something that most people would ignore, and realizing that in the right condition, in the right market, it could be worth thousands or even tens of thousands. That is the reason people around the world are now checking their old UK coins more carefully than ever before. But here is something even more important that I want you to understand. Not every 1993 2p coin is valuable. In fact, the majority of them are still only worth face value in everyday circulation. The high value only appears under very specific conditions, such as exceptional mint condition, often graded very high by professional services, rare variations, or production anomalies. Collector demand spikes in certain regions, limited availability, and pristine preservation, and this is exactly what makes coin collecting both exciting and unpredictable, because you never know what is sitting in front of you until you actually take a closer look. Now let's go a little deeper into why collectors are emotionally drawn to coins like this. For many collectors, especially those who are older and have lived through different eras of currency, coins are not just money. They are memories. They represent history in physical form. They remind people of the past, of the years when they first held similar coins, of the times when life was different, slower, and more connected to physical currency rather than digital numbers on a screen. And this emotional connection is powerful, because when emotion enters the collector market, value often follows. That is why even coins that seem ordinary can suddenly become desirable when collectors recognize their significance. Now, if you are watching this and you are thinking, I might have something like this at home, then I want you to pause for a moment and really pay attention. Because many people overlook coins simply because they assume they are common. They never check the year properly. They never inspect the condition closely. They never realize that small details like sharpness of letters, shine of the surface, or even tiny minting differences can matter, and sometimes that ignorance is what causes valuable coins to be spent without a second thought. This is why so many experienced collectors always say the same thing: never underestimate your change. Now, before we continue deeper into the significance of this coin, I want to bring your attention back to something important. My channel, Expensive Coins History Channel, is built around exactly this idea: revealing hidden value, educating viewers, and helping everyday people understand the real worth behind coins that are often ignored. Because knowledge is what separates a normal spender from a smart collector. And if you are someone who is 35, 45, 55, or even 65 and above, then you already understand something very important in life. Value is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes value is hidden. Sometimes it is overlooked, and sometimes it is sitting right in your hand without you even realizing it. That is why I strongly encourage you, as you watch this video, do not rush. Watch it carefully till the end, because what you learn here might help you recognize something valuable in your own collection or household that you never paid attention to before. And yes, it really can change how you see everyday coins from this moment onward. Now let's go back again to the 1993 2p coin point. One of the most fascinating things about coins like this is how they move through time unnoticed. Think about it. When this coin was first minted in 1993, it was just another piece of currency entering circulation. People used it to buy small items, to receive change, to complete transactions. Nobody thought about future value. Nobody imagined collectors decades later analyzing every detail of it. But that is exactly how numismatic history works. Coins are created for everyday use, but later they become historical artifacts. And as time passes, fewer and fewer high-quality examples survive. That scarcity is what creates opportunity, because while millions may have been minted, only a small percentage remain in pristine condition today. And that is where serious collectors focus their attention. They are not interested in damaged coins. They are not interested in heavily circulated pieces. They are searching for the best of the best. Now imagine if you had kept one of those coins in perfect condition since 1993, untouched, preserved, stored safely. That coin today would be part of a very different category in the collector world. And this is exactly why so many people are now going back through old collections, family boxes, and inherited coin jars, hoping to discover something special, because discoveries like this still happen. Even in today's digital world, Physical treasure hunts are very real, and that is what makes this topic so exciting. Now, as we continue, I want you to keep one thing in mind. The value of coins is never fixed. It changes with time. It changes with demand. It changes with collector interest. And sometimes, it changes overnight when a rare example appears in auction. That is why even coins like the 1993 2 pence can sometimes reach unexpected levels in specific markets. And again, as mentioned earlier in collector discussions, some exceptional examples have been associated with valuations reaching up to $69,000 depending on condition and rarity context. This is not a guarantee for every coin, but it shows the potential extremes that exist in numismatic markets. And understanding that potential is what makes you a smarter viewer today than you were yesterday, because once you understand how value is created, you start seeing opportunities everywhere. Now I want to slow things down for a moment. Take a breath. Because what we have discussed so far is not just about one coin. It is about awareness. It is about observation. It is about learning to see what others ignore. And that skill alone can be incredibly powerful. As we move forward in life, especially as we get older, we start to realize something very important, that we don't always need more things. Sometimes we need better understanding of the things we already have. And coins like this are a perfect example of that truth. Now, before we conclude this first part of the journey on the 1993 UK Queen Elizabeth II 2 pence coin, I want to leave you with one final thought. Every coin tells a story, but not every story is immediately visible. Some stories are hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right person to uncover them. And maybe, just maybe, the coin sitting in your home right now is one of those stories waiting to be discovered. Don't ignore it. Take a closer look, because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. And remember, this is Expensive Coins History Channel, and we are just getting started. Now stay with me, because what you are about to hear next continues exactly where we left off. And in many ways, it goes even deeper into the hidden world of coin collecting, where history, rarity, and timing can completely reshape what something is worth. If you thought the last coin was surprising, then this next one will make you look at your spare change in a completely different way. Because now we move to another piece of modern British coinage, a coin that at first glance looks almost identical to millions of others. But in the collector world, it has become a subject of intense curiosity, debate, and in some cases, shocking valuation claims. That I am talking about the UK Queen Elizabeth II 2 pence coin from 1987. Now, before you dismiss this as just another old 2p coin, I want you to slow down and really listen, especially if you are someone who has kept coins for many years, or you simply have old change lying around at home. Because the 1987 2 pence coin carries something very important that most people completely overlook, and that is the power of early circulation history within Queen Elizabeth II's coinage timeline. Now let's take a step back for a moment. When we talk about Queen Elizabeth II coins, we are not just talking about currency. We are talking about an entire era of British history captured in metal. A reign that spanned decades, a reign that saw major changes in the economy, technology, and society, and a reign that is now deeply studied by collectors around the world. And every coin minted during this long period tells a slightly different story. That is why collectors pay attention not just to the design, but to the year. Because the year tells them everything about rarity, production numbers, and survival rate. Now the 1987 2 pence coin belongs to a period when UK coin production was still heavily focused on high circulation output. But at the same time, subtle variations in minting processes were occurring that collectors today pay close attention to. On the surface, the coin looks simple. On the obverse side, you see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, representing dignity, continuity, and stability in British coinage. And on the reverse side, you see the classic 2 pence design with the crown portcullis, a symbol that has become instantly recognizable across generations. At first glance, nothing unusual. But in the world of numismatics, at first glance is never enough, because the real value often hides in details that most people never notice. Now let me ask you something important. Have you ever held an old coin and thought, it's probably just worth a few cents, and then later discovered that similar coins have been sold for surprising amounts at auctions? This is exactly how many discoveries begin, with doubt, followed by curiosity, followed by realization. And that is exactly why the 1987 2-pence coin has attracted attention from collectors who specialize in Queen Elizabeth II early-era circulation coins. Because certain well-preserved examples, especially those with strong mint condition characteristics, have been discussed in collector circles with extremely high valuation claims. And here is the moment you need to pay attention. In some collector discussions and rare market listings. Exceptional versions of the 1987 UK Queen Elizabeth II 2-pence coin have been associated with values reaching as high as $95,000. Yes, $95,000 for a small copper 2p coin. Now I want you to pause for a second and really think about that. A coin that was originally made for everyday transactions, something that passed through countless hands, something that was used for buying small items, can, under the right conditions, reach a value that rivals a luxury car or even a house. Deposit in many parts of the world. This is the reality of rare coin collecting. It is not about face value. It is about scarcity, condition, and demand. Now let me be very clear with you. Not every 1987 2-pence coin is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are still common circulation coins. But what creates the difference is a combination of factors that collectors obsess over. First, condition. A coin that is fully uncirculated, with sharp edges, original mint luster, and no visible wear is significantly more desirable than a worn coin that has been in circulation for decades. Second, preservation. Coins that have been stored properly over time, away from moisture, scratches, and environmental damage, hold much higher appeal. Third, collector demand. Sometimes certain years become more popular simply because collectors start focusing on them, which increases market interest. And fourth, rarity and high grade. Even if millions were minted, only a very small percentage survive in top condition. That small percentage is where the real competition begins. And competition in the collector world is what drives prices upward. Now let's talk about something deeper, something many people do not think about when they hear these numbers. Why would someone pay so much for a coin like this? The answer is simple, but powerful. Because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history. They are buying preservation. They are buying something that survived time in a better condition than most others. And in many ways, they are also buying emotional connection. For older collectors especially, coins like this are not just objects. They are memories of a time when currency was physical, when transactions were simple, when coins passed through hands daily as part of life. And that emotional connection often increases the perceived value of rare coins. Now, if you are watching this and you are over 35 or 45 or even 65 and beyond, I want you to really think about something for a moment. You have lived through decades of change. You have seen currencies evolve. You have seen technology replace physical money in many places. And you may very well have coins sitting at home that you have never looked at properly. Coins from the 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s. Coins that might seem ordinary today, but could hold unexpected interest in the collector world. This is why I always tell viewers on Expensive Coins History Channel, do not underestimate old coins, because knowledge is what turns ordinary objects into potential discoveries. Now let's go deeper into the mindset of collectors who actively search for coins like the 1987 2-pence. They don't just randomly buy coins. They analyze years. They compare mint conditions. They study population reports from grading services. They look for anomalies. And most importantly, they wait patiently for the right specimen to appear. Because in coin collecting, patience is not just a virtue, it is a strategy. The best collectors are not rushed buyers. They are careful observers. They understand that value is not always immediate. Sometimes it takes years for a coin to reach its full recognition in the market. And this is why coins like the 1987 2-pence continue to remain relevant in discussions even today, because collectors believe that hidden potential still exists in high-grade examples. Now I want to bring your attention back to something very important. Earlier, we discussed the idea that condition can completely change value. And this coin is a perfect example of that principle. Imagine two identical 1987 coins. Point one is heavily worn, edges faded, surface scratched, passed through countless transactions. The other is untouched, sharp detail, original mint shine preserved. Perfectly. To most people, they are the same. But to collectors, they are completely different categories. Point one is common. The other is rare, and rarity is where value begins. Now let's bring everything together. The 1987 UK Queen Elizabeth II 2-pence coin represents more than just currency. It represents history, it represents preservation, and in rare cases, it represents extraordinary collector value, with discussions placing exceptional examples at around $95,000 depending on condition, rarity perception, and market demand. But beyond the numbers, beyond the valuation, there is something even more important: awareness. Because once you become aware of how these values are created, you start seeing the world differently. You start checking coins more carefully. You start noticing details you ignored before. You start understanding that value is not always obvious, and sometimes it is hidden in plain sight. Now, before we move toward the final reflection of this video, I want you to take a moment and think seriously. How many coins have passed through your hands in your lifetime? How many did you ignore? How many did you spend without a second thought? And how many might you still have somewhere at home? Because sometimes the difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable discovery is simply attention. And attention is something anyone can develop. Now, as we reach the end of this part of the journey, I want to remind you again, this is Expensive Coins History Channel, and everything we discuss here is about opening your eyes to possibilities that most people never considered. If you are someone who is older, experienced in life, and understands the value of patience and observation, then this message is especially for you. Do not rush through your old coins. Take your time. Look carefully, because even the smallest object can sometimes carry the biggest surprise. And as always, I want you to stay with me till the end, because what comes next in the world of coins might completely change how you think about everyday money forever.